Have you ever looked at your plate and wondered if the timing of your meals matters just as much as what's on them? Maybe you've heard the buzz about intermittent fasting and thought that's something younger people do. But then a friend mentioned how they started eating in shorter windows, and now they feel more energized, lighter, and more in control of their appetite. It might have even left you curious, thinking, could this work for me too? The truth is, in your later years, the choices you make around food start to feel even more personal. You've lived long enough to know what your body needs, but also long enough to realize it sometimes changes its mind. Some days your hunger shows up bright and early, other days not until late afternoon. That's why it's worth talking about this idea of giving your body longer breaks between meals. It's not about dieting. It's about listening. Listening to how your body digests, how it heals, and how it stores and uses energy. Now, intermittent fasting, at its core, simply means eating during certain hours of the day and resting your digestive system the rest of the time. That could be something like eating between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. or any other window that suits your life and rhythm. The rest of the hours, you're just letting your body be. No midnight snacks, no grazing throughout the evening. Just space, rest, repair. And here's where it gets interesting. Giving your body that window of rest does something powerful behind the scenes. During those fasting hours, your body isn't just sitting idle. It's actually doing some housekeeping. It starts cleaning out old cells, using up stored energy, and balancing things like blood sugar and insulin levels. For many people, this process leads to feeling clearer, lighter, and more stable throughout the day. One of the first things many folks notice is how much better their digestion becomes. If you've ever felt bloated or sluggish after dinner, this might be a clue. When you shorten your eating window, your body has more time to process food before bedtime. That often leads to less discomfort, better sleep, and fewer nighttime bathroom trips. It also teaches your body to be more efficient with the fuel you give it. But what about safety? That's the question many people ask, and it's a smart one. The answer really depends on how it's done. Intermittent fasting isn't about skipping meals or starving yourself. It's about being mindful of when you eat. And when done thoughtfully, with enough nourishing food during your eating window, many people find they're actually eating better, not less. Let's think about your usual day. Maybe you start with breakfast first thing in the morning, lunch around noon, and dinner early in the evening. That's a good rhythm. But what if, just once or twice a week, you waited an hour or two before breakfast? Or maybe finished your dinner a little earlier and skipped that evening snack? That little shift might be enough to give your body the extra time it needs to do its internal maintenance work. And the amazing thing is, you might feel the difference in your energy, in your focus, and even in your mood. Some people also notice they become more aware of their real hunger cues. Instead of eating just because the clock says so, they start to recognize when their body genuinely needs nourishment and when it's just habit. That can be empowering, especially when you realize that you're not ruled by cravings anymore. Now, this doesn't mean intermittent fasting is for everyone. If you're managing certain conditions or taking medications that require regular meals, it's important to speak with your doctor first. But for many people, adjusting the timing of meals can be a surprisingly gentle and natural shift, one that brings clarity, balance, and even joy to eating again. It's also worth mentioning how much more enjoyable meals can become when you're truly hungry. Have you ever noticed how much better that first bite tastes when you've waited just a little longer? Intermittent fasting can make food feel exciting again. You're not just eating out of routine. You're savoring, appreciating, and tuning in. Let's also talk about something that's often overlooked: mental clarity. People who fast often report sharper thinking, less brain fog, and even a brighter mood. That's because your body isn't constantly tied up with digestion. Instead, it can redirect energy to other parts of the body, including your brain. And if you've been feeling a bit slower lately, this might be a gentle way to support your mind from the inside out. It's not about perfection. You don't need to follow a strict rulebook or feel guilty for enjoying breakfast when you're hungry. It's more about experimenting, trying small shifts, seeing how your body responds. You might find that a simple change, like eating dinner just a bit earlier, leaves you feeling lighter the next morning. Or that waiting an extra hour before your first meal helps you feel more energized. And the beauty is, you're in control. You decide what feels good and what doesn't. You can try different time windows or even skip fasting some days and come back to it later. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. Just your body, your wisdom, and your choice. Now that we've opened the door to what intermittent fasting is and how it could fit into your life, let's ease into the next part of the conversation. Let's imagine this for a moment. You had a peaceful night's sleep, and you're moving through the morning without rushing. Your body feels lighter, your thoughts are clearer, and there's a quiet steadiness in your energy. You didn't change your entire diet overnight, but you did something simple. You gave your body more time between meals. And somehow that small shift made everything feel more manageable. One of the most overlooked benefits of intermittent fasting, especially in later years, is the calming effect it can have on your metabolism. The older we get, the more sensitive our bodies become to blood sugar spikes and crashes. It's not just about sweets or treats anymore. Even a seemingly healthy snack can cause your energy to rise quickly, only to fall just as fast, leaving you drained and foggy. By spacing out meals and allowing longer gaps between eating, your body has the opportunity to maintain a more stable rhythm. And with that, your mood, focus, and even patience often improve. There's also something empowering about learning to trust your body again. In a world full of constant reminders to snack, graze, or never skip a meal, this gentle approach invites you to pay attention to what your body actually needs, rather than what habits you've been following for decades. For many, it's the first time in a long while they've felt in sync with their appetite. It's easy to assume that making changes to how you eat requires big decisions or drastic action, but intermittent fasting tends to work best when it starts quietly. You don't need to jump into long fasts or skip entire meals. It could be as simple as finishing dinner a bit earlier, closing the kitchen for the evening, and waking up the next day without rushing to the breakfast table. That small window of rest can lead to surprising changes that aren't always visible on the scale, but are deeply felt in the body and mind. And while many people initially try this way of eating to feel better physically, there's a deeper benefit that often catches them off guard. It creates space, not just in your day, but in your thoughts. Without constantly thinking about what to eat next or when, your brain has more room to focus on other things you care about. Maybe it's reading. Maybe it's calling someone you haven't spoken to in a while. Or simply sitting quietly in your favorite chair, feeling calm and content. There's also a rhythm that starts to form. Instead of the day being shaped around food, food becomes a part of a rhythm that serves you, not the other way around. And when that rhythm settles in, many people feel more balanced in their routine. They sleep more deeply, wake more gently, and move more freely through their day. Not because they've restricted themselves, but because they've created space for their body to catch its breath. Something else happens too. You begin to notice the quality of the food you eat. When you're eating fewer times in a day, what you choose matters more. That bowl of soup, that plate of vegetables, that small serving of rice, they all become more intentional, more nourishing. And when food becomes a conscious choice rather than a background habit, your relationship with it deepens. This isn't about perfection or self-discipline. It's about awareness, the kind that only grows stronger with age. The awareness of how your body responds to different patterns. The awareness of how you feel an hour after eating. The awareness of what gives you strength and what slows you down. And once you're tuned into that, you start making choices that feel less like effort and more like care. You might also find that your cravings shift. What once felt like a daily need, maybe a sweet treat in the afternoon or a late-night bite, begins to feel optional, or even unnecessary. That's not because your willpower has improved. It's because your body is balanced in a new way. It no longer sends out panic signals for sugar or carbs to keep going. Instead, it runs on the energy it already has stored. And that quiet confidence can be one of the most surprising gifts of this lifestyle. There's something freeing about not feeling bound to food throughout the day. It's not a punishment. It's not deprivation. It's a return to simplicity, to waking up and knowing your body is steady, to moving through the day with clarity, to eating when you're truly hungry and enjoying each bite without guilt or pressure. And perhaps the most powerful part of all this is the ripple effect it creates. When your body feels lighter, your steps become easier. When your digestion is calmer, your rest becomes deeper. When your energy is steady, your mind becomes sharper. It touches every part of your life without needing to overhaul everything at once. So many people assume that aging is a straight line towards slowing down. But the truth is, small shifts can lead to massive changes. Not overnight, not with flashy promises, but slowly, steadily, with patience and grace. And intermittent fasting, when done with care, might just be one of those shifts that gives you more than you expected. Let's continue this conversation. There's more to explore. There's something powerful that happens when you start feeling a sense of control over your own health again. Not in a way that requires perfection or constant discipline, but in the simple awareness that your daily choices are actually working with your body instead of against it. Intermittent fasting, for many seniors, isn't about chasing trends. It's about reclaiming energy and mental clarity that once felt out of reach. That feeling of waking up lighter, moving without stiffness, or sitting down for a meal and truly enjoying every bite. That's the quiet magic that often goes unnoticed. And what makes it even more impactful is how this one shift can influence so many other habits. When your meals are spaced out and you're more in tune with when and what you eat, you often find yourself more mindful in other areas too. Maybe you drink more water without having to remind yourself. Maybe you feel less tempted to reach for processed snacks. Or perhaps you simply stop eating just because the clock tells you it's time and start listening more to your body's gentle cues instead. What's interesting is that hunger begins to feel different. It becomes more honest, more manageable. You may find that those sharp pangs or sudden urges to eat fade into something much quieter. Hunger becomes something that rises and falls like a soft tide rather than crashing waves. And when meals are timed more intentionally, your digestion often thanks you. Bloating becomes less frequent. Meals leave you feeling satisfied instead of sluggish. That heavy feeling that sometimes comes with a large lunch or an evening snack starts to fade, replaced by something lighter and easier. For many, this also becomes a way to reconnect with routines that may have slipped through the cracks. Having a gentle structure to the day, knowing when you're eating, when you're pausing, when you're resting, can restore a comforting sense of order, especially if your days have started to blend together. It can provide a rhythm that makes life feel less chaotic, even if nothing else around you changes. Another beautiful side effect is the renewed appreciation for food itself. With fewer meals to plan for, you might notice yourself caring more about quality than quantity. You may start preparing meals with a bit more love, a little more attention. Maybe you take more time to chop fresh vegetables, to simmer a broth, to sit at the table without distractions. Food begins to feel nourishing again, not just something to get through the day, but something that brings joy and peace into it. But perhaps one of the most meaningful changes happens quietly in the background. Confidence begins to return. When you realize that your body can thrive with fewer meals, with more space between them, you also realize that you're stronger than you thought. You don't need to snack constantly to feel okay. You're not as dependent on sugar or caffeine to keep going. That realization builds self-trust. And with it comes a calm kind of pride. The kind that grows from knowing you've made choices to care for yourself in a way that feels gentle, not forced. It's also worth noting that intermittent fasting doesn't have to look the same for everyone. For some, it's a long overnight pause between dinner and breakfast. For others, it might mean skipping a morning meal every now and then, or having dinner earlier and letting the body rest longer before the next bite. The beauty is in the flexibility. You don't have to fit a rigid plan. You simply find what feels best in your body and adjust from there. Sometimes the fear of trying something new, especially related to health, can come from a lifetime of being told what to do, when to eat, what's right and wrong. But intermittent fasting isn't about rules. It's about tuning in. It's about choosing presence over pressure, clarity over clutter, balance over busyness. And if you've ever felt like your energy just wasn't what it used to be, or like your body needed a reset you couldn't quite figure out, this might be a gentle door to walk through. Not because it promises perfection, not because it guarantees dramatic change overnight, but because it offers a quieter, more intuitive way to live. One that honors your body, your rhythm, and your right to feel well without needing to follow anyone else's pace. We all want to feel like we're aging with grace, with strength, and with purpose. And sometimes the answers we're looking for aren't in something brand new, but in simplifying what we already do, in taking a little break between meals, in listening more closely to when we're truly hungry and when we're simply following habit, in finding peace in the pauses. There's no perfect formula, and there doesn't need to be. Just you, your awareness, and a willingness to explore something that might make you feel better than you thought possible. Let's continue this journey. There's still more to uncover. One of the most overlooked gifts of intermittent fasting is the sense of calm it can bring, not just to the body, but to the mind as well. It's easy to underestimate how much energy goes into constant decision-making around food. What to eat, when to eat, whether it's healthy, whether it's too much. That mental noise can be exhausting. But when your meals have a natural rhythm and you're no longer snacking out of boredom or stress, your thoughts begin to settle. There's less chatter, less guilt, less urgency. And in that quieter space, something beautiful happens. You become more present. Present in the mornings when you rise, with a lighter stomach and a clearer mind. Present during the day, when you're not chasing your next sugar fix. Present in the evenings, when your body begins to wind down without the disruption of late-night snacks. That presence carries into other areas of your life. Conversations feel richer. Walks feel more mindful. Even sitting quietly with a cup of tea becomes an act of self-care, rather than a filler between meals. What's remarkable is how this shift can lead to emotional resilience. As your body stabilizes and you no longer ride the highs and lows of erratic blood sugar, your moods often become more even. You might notice fewer sharp drops in energy, fewer irritations triggered by hunger, and a greater sense of steadiness. That kind of emotional balance is a quiet superpower in later life, when so much else can feel uncertain or out of your control. This steadiness also creates a foundation for better sleep. When the digestive system isn't burdened late into the evening, your body gets a chance to rest deeply. Your sleep becomes more restorative. You wake up feeling more refreshed, not because you slept longer, but because your body wasn't working overtime trying to process food that didn't need to be there. And that clarity in the morning is often the first time many realize just how powerful this practice can be. You don't have to rely on caffeine to get going. You don't feel foggy before breakfast. You simply begin the day with a clearer head and a lighter step. Of course, not every day is perfect. Some days you'll feel a bit hungrier than expected. Some days your schedule might throw things off. But the beauty of intermittent fasting lies in its flexibility. It's not about all or nothing. It's about learning to work with your body, adjusting as needed, and being kind to yourself in the process. There's no gold medal for following a strict window. What matters more is how you feel and whether the habit is supporting your overall well-being. And when that well-being starts to show up in your life, in your energy, your mood, your digestion, it often inspires other changes. You may start walking more, drinking more water, saying no to processed snacks that once felt irresistible. It becomes less about willpower and more about alignment. Things begin to click. One good choice makes the next one easier, and before you know it, you've built a rhythm that feels natural rather than forced. Many people reach this stage of life believing their best health is behind them. But the truth is, your body is still capable of growth, healing, and transformation when given the chance. Intermittent fasting can be that chance. Not because it's magic, but because it removes some of the clutter that stand in the way of your body doing what it was designed to do: restore, reset, and thrive. This is about more than food. It's about reclaiming your vitality in a way that doesn't require pills, powders, or impossible routines. It's about simplicity. It's about slowing down, tuning in, and giving yourself the gift of space between meals, between decisions, between moments of rush. In that space, you may rediscover energy you thought you lost, clarity you didn't know you needed, and confidence that had been quiet for too long. And most importantly, it's about knowing that change is still possible. That your days can still feel better. That your body, even now, still listens, still responds, still wants to support you. All it needs is a little less noise, a little more space, and a lot more kindness. If this message resonates with you, take it as a gentle encouragement. You don't have to overhaul your entire lifestyle overnight. You can start simply. You can start slowly. You can start today. Trust your instincts. Listen to your body. And let yourself feel what it's like to thrive, not because you followed every rule perfectly, but because you gave yourself permission to feel good again. If you found this video helpful, I'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. And if you're looking for more simple, inspiring health insights, be sure to subscribe. Here's to living your most vibrant life, one mindful step at a time.